Hey Trag, you posted a video the other day on the Tyra Good Hair versus Bad Hair TV show, and you asked for video responses, and you wanted to know, where did this craziness come from? Some of the things that were stated on the show about nappy hair, where did these ignorant beliefs, sprout their ugly head? And I was really upset by what I saw of the show. I didn't see the whole show. I saw several different clips that showed me several different segments of the show. And I wasn't going to respond because you got a lot of responses, but I made responses to other videos, and some of the feedback that I got I didn't quite agree with. So I thought that I would post this video just to let you know where it came from. And basically my take on the show was that Tyra was really, really irresponsible. I felt like she basically put out into the world stereotypes and ignorance that has been around for a long, long time. And I felt like, with her having a TV show, that's a much better platform to or I just would have hoped she would have been more responsible with that platform and actually show the beauty of natural hair. Do a real natural versus relaxed show. Have some relaxer people, experts on there. Have some natural hair experts on there, and speak intelligently about both sides of it. I have natural hair. I love my natural hair, but I don't care if Tyra wears a blonde weave every day. I don't care if someone else relaxes their hair. That's on them. But whoever relaxes their hair should know the pros and cons, just like if I was at the beginning of, choosing to go natural or not, I should know the pros and cons. And that's kind of how I felt like the show should have gone, because that was the way it was kind of presented. But in any event, just for a little history, African American hair has always been a source of pride for us from way, way back in the day, prior to the slave trade, all of that, back when all of us were still in Africa, or most of us anyway. And our hair would do everything from tell our marriage status to our level in society, possibly what tribe we belong to, what family we belong to, our status, our age, things like that. Women and men both had different intricate designs that they design their hair with. We also considered our hair extremely spiritual. Basically because our hair is the closest thing to the divine. It's the closest thing to God. And so our hair was considered very, very spiritual. And we loved it. We took immaculate care of it. We had special combs and special brushes and special things that we did to our hair, special treatments. I mean, henna and all that stuff comes from back in the day when, we were proud of our hair and taking really good care of our hair, and then enters the slave trade, and we come over here and we no longer have our special combs, and we aren't allowed really to do our hair at all. And, that goes on for a while, and people, or at least historians, have noted how impressed they were with the intricacy of some of the designs that we had in our hair. But, over time that went away because we had no way of combing our hair. As a matter of fact, we started combing our hair with the same combs that they use to comb sheep's wool, which is like a wooden piece with some metal teeth, which is basically where the pick comes from. And we kind of knew about how much we loved our hair until the slave trade stopped bringing Africans straight over from Africa, and we started, I guess, procreating so much that we had our own crew of people over here. And so then we started having several generations of people who had only been in the Americas and didn't know anything really, or didn't remember that much about what we used to do with our hair. At some point, I guess we were allowed to go to church on Sunday, so we did begin to style our hair at least once a week. But at that point in time, the only thing we really had to look at was white people. White women specifically. I guess the guys basically wore afros, and then the women attempted to style their hair as close as they could to their masters' wives. We still had beautiful hair. We still had long hair. We found creative ways to care for it during the slave period, but and it was known that our hair was beautiful and that we were proud of our hair, because there are many accounts of a slave owner finding fondness in one of the female slaves, and then as punishment, the slave master's wife chopping her hair off. There are also documented reports of runaway slave papers where the paper will read something like, has long curly hair, or usually has big gigantic woolly hair, may have shaved to try to pass as white, because at that point a lot of the slaves were products of the master, so a lot of them were light. But in any event, so women started trying to style their natural hair like their slave masters' wives, because that was the only thing that they really saw. It was the only thing of beauty that they knew, and quite honestly, it offered privilege, and it offered relief from some of the things that they couldn't get. You know how it went. If they were lighter and they had either silkier hair, they were more accepted, and those are the ones who were made house slaves, because they looked most like the slave owners. So I think that's where it began, and unfortunately I think we lost our history in terms of how beautiful our own natural hair is, and over time we've just continued to perpetuate that. That's been around for eons. Anybody who knows African American history knows that there was a time when we took care of our hair and loved our hair, and now we don't, or some people don't. Society doesn't, and I think that it's just another example of brainwashing. People who don't think they're brainwashed or brainwashed. So it's just it's unfortunate. And in terms of Tyra's show, I really wish that she would have spoken to the beauty of natural hair, as well as the beauty of relaxers. There's something to be said for having, bone straight hair if you want it. It can be very healthy. It can be very beautiful. I don't knock anybody for doing that. However, I felt like some of the things that were allowed to be aired on the show were just negative, and they were said in front of an audience who was ignorant, and they left the show still being as ignorant as they came to it. If you've got black people sitting on a stage saying that they don't want nappy, kinky, matted hair, as if you can use the term matted in the same sentence with the word kinky, that would lead someone to think they don't like themselves. And I feel like a lot of people left that show thinking that black people hate themselves, and they hate themselves because of themselves, because their hair is kinky and nappy and matted and nasty and unattractive and all this other stuff, and that is just absolutely not the truth. So the whole show was just very disappointing to me, and I think that if there is ignorance out there like that believes those things, then they needed to be corrected, not indulged, and given a forum to spew a whole bunch of hate, and then just kind of like leave it open where nobody learns anything in the end. You know, all we know is that there's a bunch of, you know, effed up people who are ignorant and confused. And quite honestly, some of the people in the audience may have been just as ignorant, so they came away feeling justified in their beliefs. So it was just really disgusting to me. So thanks, Trag, for asking for a response, and keep up the great videos. Ciao.